Tua Tagovailoa prepares for the upcoming NFL draft. Trent Dilfer believes that if it wasn't for his hip injury, he'd be the consensus #1 pick. Dilfer said, quote, Tua throws better than Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino. So, Shannon, Tua is your guy, but these are strong words. Do you agree with this?
Skip, I know Trent very well. I played a year with him in Baltimore, and he came in off the bench, and he led us to a Super Bowl. And even when he wasn't a starter, Skip, he was in his playbook, he was watching film, and he was always asking, Sharp, why'd you do this, and why'd you run the route like that? Well, let me tell you what I'm thinking. So I know Trent has done his homework. I know he's studied and watched a lot of film on all these guys, because that's what he does. He really, you talk about another guy, you talk about Tom Brady loving to watch film. Trent really loves to watch film, although he wasn't the player that Tom Brady is. Skip. But, man, I'm not willing to go there yet, Skip. I mean, Dan Marino, and Skip, you talk about in 100-year history, I believe Dan Marino and Aaron Rodgers are the two greatest throwers of the footballs that I've ever seen. Now, Dan was in my era, so I went to Pro Bowls with Dan. I played against Dan. I watched Aaron Rodgers up close at the Super Bowl that they won against the Steelers. I watched him from the sideline for the first half, and then I went up into the box the second half. And that's when I said, he's the best thrower of the football I've ever seen. Having watched Dan throw the football, having watched Aaron Rodgers throw the football, I said Rodgers is the greatest thrower of the football that I've ever seen. And for Trent to say that this kid right now coming out of college is better than both of those guys, Skip, I'm not willing to go there. I do believe had Tua not gotten hurt, he would be the consensus #1 overall pick, Skip, because he can flat out spin it. His accuracy and his ability to anticipate, that's what you need in the pros, because guys are not going to be running scot-free and all that space like they are in college. You're going to have to fit the ball into tight windows, and he can do that as well as anybody that I've seen in a very, very long time. Yes, there are flags, mainly with the hip and the injuries, and we'll talk about that a little later, Skip. But, Skip, he's as good a thrower of the football that I've seen coming out of college in, say, the last decade.
Okay, I'm going to use your favorite word that you always provide here on Undisputed, which is context. My context for Trent Dilfer's remark was in a story I read last night by the Washington Post. It went back through the history of how Trent got to know Tua at Trent's quarterback camp that he runs for all the best high school quarterbacks coming out each year in the summertime. And because of that connection, Tua's father then called Trent, I don't know, maybe a month or so, maybe 6-8 weeks ago, and said, hey, I need you to train my son because he loved you at the camp. And at first Trent said no, because he's the coach of little Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, where his son has played. And Trent said, I'm too busy here. And when the father persisted, he said, okay, if you'll send him up here, no social media, no posting pictures every day about we're doing this, that, and the other. Let's do it in secret. That Trent said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm sure Trent did a great job with this kid, getting him the best he can be before this virtual draft that we're about to have. It's not virtual. I mean, it's going to be done by electronics, obviously. So the point is, Trent that was then paid to get Tua ready, and clearly he's being paid to help sell him going into the draft when a lot any time. I've never seen anything like what he did in 1984, his second year when he was the MVP of the league and led them to the Super Bowl that they lost to Joe Montana. And obviously, the 49ers were just a better team than the Dolphins at that point. But come on, Trent, you can't compare him to Dan Marino, who was 6 feet 4 inches tall. Even Aaron Rodgers is 6 feet 2 inches tall. Tua is undersized. He's only 6 feet tall. He's barely taller than short to me. He's just like an inch taller, inch and a half taller than Kyler is. So again, I love the quick release, but here's my problem. The release to me, and I'm just watching the TV games, the Tua release is so compact that he has trouble getting that much velocity on it. There's not a lot of mustard on his throws. There's not huge zip on his passes. There's nothing like I saw from Marino or Elway or any of the quarterbacks you'd say had a gun. This kid is accurate, I will give you that, but he also gets a little frenetic in the pocket. He gets a little frantic, and in some of the biggest games, I thought he lost his poise. He unraveled against Georgia in that 2018 SEC championship game. He was 10 of 25 for 164. His QBR was 29 on scale of 0 to 100, and he got yanked. And then he came back against Clemson and threw 2 more interceptions in the championship game. Remember, Jalen Hurts saved him in the SEC game, but he threw 2 more interceptions against Clemson. They got routed. He had a QBR of 59, barely above average. And then I told you, I carefully watched him against LSU last year, obviously in Tuscaloosa, and he barely completed 50% of his passes. He was 21 of 40, and he missed a lot of throws. He made a lot of throws too, but I keep also reminding you, Tua had, I think, the greatest collection of wide receiver speed and route running I've ever seen on one college football team. I'm not saying they're the biggest, strongest bunch of stud receivers, because there have been some Clemson groups of receivers, as we've seen, that were just all world.
D-Hop and Sammy
I'm talking about, thank you. But I'm talking about burner speed, track speed in Ruggs and Devontae Smith, and even to a degree Waddle and obviously Jerry Jeudy, that they can all run routes. It was a pro-style attack, and sometimes that could help Tua look a little better than he should have looked. And there were also games later in his career, again, Rex Ryan is reporting that he had 5 surgeries, and we know about all the injuries, the litany of injuries that he had. He even had a broken nose and a concussion and a broken finger, and he had the 2 ankle surgeries, the tightrope surgeries, and then the career-threatening hip surgery, and I think he had some knee scope. And the problem is, as we got into last year, I thought he started to flinch a little bit in the pocket. I thought he was getting a little antsy and getting rid of the ball a little sooner than he needed to. So my point is, overall, I get what Trent's doing. He's trying to hype him. He's trying to do the job that he's paid to do. But come on, Dan Marino? That's just, even the workout video that I saw yesterday, I didn't see a lot of juice on the ball. I didn't see cannon. I didn't see gun. I'm sorry. I get what he's doing, but that's just laughable to go to Dan Marino.
Yeah. Danny was as good a thrower of the football that we'll ever see. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to have something to say about that when his career is all over. Skip, the thing is about Danny's release was so quick and it was so compact, is that having played with him in the Pro Bowl, yes, he could spin the ball, but John was a different animal. John being a right fielder for the Yankees and having played baseball, and I think Danny played some baseball in high school, his arm was just different. And to practice with him early in his career and when in his prime, because I caught John was only like eight years into his career. So I still had him while he was in his, 7, 8 years into his career. So I got him in his prime. So he could spin it for real, throw it. But Danny, the ball just came out so quick. DBs would be right there, Skip, and it's like, he's not going to throw that because he sees me right here. And the receiver has the football running with it. He threw it. Yeah, he threw it. John could throw it, Skip, because he had so much confidence, is that you could be in position. If you look at the Skip on the 3rd and 6 in the play that I caught in Pittsburgh that helped us advance to the Super Bowl, the guy's in perfect position. He has his hand here. And by the time he comes down, I got the ball spinning and running. That's how, and he's right there. He sees it. He knows John's going to throw the football. They're playing cover 5. But there was nothing you could do about it. Skip, I love Tua. You know I love Tua. But I'm not willing to go Marino and Aaron Rodgers. Not yet. Not yet.
By the way, I used to read stories that Elway in practice threw it so hard that receivers would constantly get the webbing between their fingers split open. I don't know if that ever happened to you. Did you ever have your webbing split between your fingers where it bled because you were trying to catch the...
That right there, Skip? That right there is going right there. That's what that ball's going to be right there every time. But I tell you what he would do. Now, you try and catch that ball with your chest, and you could hear that. It would sound like somebody hitting a drum. When you try to catch it with your shoulder pass, it would sound, and you got good. You got very proficient at catching the ball with your hands because it was going to get cold. And the thing is, the thing that I hated most was warming up with him in the game because now, Skip, his adrenaline is starting to pump, and he doesn't realize how hard he's throwing it. So when I first got to Denver, they would only give you one pair of gloves. Okay, I'm warming up with John. He's ripped my gloves before the game. So I had to learn to gut it up and catch. If you notice, Skip, when I played with him, I caught all my passes in the warm-ups once I got past that with no gloves because he would rip them. And I was only going to get one pair. I wanted the gloves